Dave, Joe Burrow has a calf injury. He may have a strained calf. I don't know if they've officially said what it is, but luckily it is July 28th. He suffered this injury on July 27th. Last year, he had an appendectomy on July 26th, oddly enough. But does this change anything for you? Obviously, he's going to miss some time during training camp preseason. Does this change anything for you with Chase, Higgins, Burrow?
Well, I think there's a dip that can be bought with Burrow, at least in drafts until we know like a legitimate time frame of when he'll be back. And if you're drafting him as the 6th or 7th quarterback off the board, I think you're winning. I expect him to be back. I expect him to be ready to go for week 1. As of now, they didn't say torn Achilles or anything like that. I think they would have known that by the time that we're recording this. It's been 12 plus hours since he hurt himself. Yeah, if you're drafting, maybe you're doing a best ball, you're going to see Burrow slide. You might even see Higgins slide. Take advantage, draft them, because I'm sure that he'll be, or at least I can't say I'm sure. I hope he'll be okay. And even if he's not, we've talked about it all offseason long. There's depth at the quarterback position where you can find a good enough replacement to be 3-4 fantasy points per game shy of what Burrow could be.
Yeah, I understand buying the dip. However, let's just say there's no dip. Are you still comfortable? Did you move Chase, Higgins, or Burrow, or Mixon, or whoever in any of your rankings?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So we move on to the greatest quotes from Sean Payton about everything going wrong with the Bronx. Was that amazing, Dan Stein?
I've never seen a coach say that much and that much negative, like inflammatory comments about another coach who's still in the NFL. He didn't retire, Nathaniel Hackett. He is over there coordinating an offense for the Jets right now.
They're going to play each other this year.
Just blasted him.
Yeah, he said it was one of the worst coaching jobs. It might have been one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL. That's how bad it was. Sean Payton said, everything I heard about last season, we're doing the opposite. Dan, do you have general Broncos optimism offensively?
Yeah, I've actually carried it all off season. I'm a big I've seen so many things play out in the NFL, and one of them has been the impact that a coach can make. Now, I don't know if it will definitely happen with Sean Payton, but his track record speaks for itself. I think we're already starting to hear some of the same things I heard with Brian Daboll and Joe Judge, the transfer of power there with the Giants last year, which is everything feels different in the building. He's a good teacher. I keep hearing that was obviously not the case with Hackett. It wasn't the case with Judge. It was the case with Daboll. And we saw the difference in the Giants offense. So I don't fully believe in Russell Wilson right now, but I do believe in the coach. And I think he's going to make things so easy for Russell Wilson that it's going to work out. He's going to have he's going to have so many different things going that I like, but the classic Sean Payton that we're going to see all year is those 3 receiver sets or those 2 receiver sets with Marvin Mims on the field or Jerry Jeudy, just running those basically clear out routes to clear out the middle of the field. So I think we're going to see a lot of play action, intermediate shots, throws to the running backs, easy things for the quarterback, easy to find reads.
All right. Calvin Ridley, very optimistic. He says he's Calvin Ridley, hasn't lost.
I'm him.
I don't know if he was saying I'm him in that. He said, I'm him. I'm Calvin Ridley. Do you think he was just saying like, I'm him?
I hate the I'm him thing. I don't really think it's that cool. I don't think it's that funny. Like everyone's like, oh my God, Calvin Ridley said I'm him. What do you mean I'm him?
Well,
of course you're him.
In a draft we did on Tuesday, Travis Etienne and Calvin Ridley went back to back in round 3, picks 31 and 32 overall, I believe. Dave, who should go first, Etienne or Ridley?
I think you can make the case for Ridley at this point, simply because of the fact that in PPR, all those catches are going to count. I'm not sure that Etienne's going to get them. And I think it's becoming increasingly clear that Etienne will not be an every down guy in this offense and that they brought in help so that he doesn't have to be that every down guy.
For what it's worth, Etienne apparently had a great first practice in the passing game, was catching a ton of passes, all of that. I'm skeptical it will carry over to the regular season. Trevor Lawrence, to me, is just not that kind of quarterback. He throws way too aggressively into the intermediate areas of the field. You need a check down quarterback for a big reception total on the running back. You need someone who's going to get to that check down. To me, from what I saw with Lawrence last year, it was aggressive hole shots over and over and over again. And now he has Ridley to add to the mix to throw those hole shots.
The only pushback I'd give is that remember what he did in college, Dan.
He was,
Now it's been 2 years since then, and last year is evidence against it, but he leaned like crazy on screen throws and short throws at Clemson.
Yeah, just and it could totally come back because he has that rapport with Ridley. I'm sorry, with ETN. I just feel like now with another weapon in the passing game, he's going to be even more aggressive. We'll see.
All right, big injury for the Dolphins as Jalen Ramsey tore his meniscus, could be out until December.
It's a huge problem for their defense because now they won't be able to play nearly as many exotic types of fronts as they could have with Ramsey there.
And they still have potentially a very good defense, very good secondary, potentially maybe one of the best defensive coordinators in Fangio, but that is a tough blow for the Dolphins.
That is.
Garrett Wilson hurt his ankle. Nothing appears to be serious right now. But Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb are also dealing with injuries, so the Jets are a little depleted there, but it's early. The Chargers, everything you read, they are going to throw the ball downfield more this season.
Oh.
Last year we were having an argument, should Mike Williams be drafted ahead of Keenan Allen? That argument does not exist this year. Does anybody think it should exist? Should Mike Williams be drafted ahead of Keenan Allen in any?
No, but I also feel like Mike Williams' ADP has been pretty depressed the entire offseason. Every draft we do, and he's sitting around at spots that I don't believe he should be sitting around at. I think overall people are kind of tired of Mike Williams, a lot of injuries, no breakout season yet, but you're still getting a big threat who's going to be a big size threat who's going to be used in the red zone with one of the best quarterbacks, one of the most aggressive coordinators in the NFL. I feel like that still has a lot of value.
Okay. Herbert last year was tied for 5th in most pass attempts of 20+ yards, air yards. And the adjusted completion rate on those throws was 37%, which was outside the top 20. So Quentin Johnson needs to be him on those deep throws. And so does Mike Williams if they're going to connect on them again this year. But he was already aggressive throwing downfield last year. You're telling me that he's going to be more aggressive this year? I love it. He needs dudes that can catch it.
So I got a buddy, one of our listeners. His name is Andrew. He's been helping me out with Azer stats.
Yeah,
he's
nice.
come up with a very, very good formula.
Is he beating? Is he? I have a feeling that this is probably was a weird, risky move by you, Adam, because he might be better than you at your own game with the Azer stats. Well, we'll find out soon. But
he is.
That's not good.
He does it for everyone.
This was your claim to fame.
Well, I mean, he's put it out into a spreadsheet basically.
Oh no, there's no chance you've ever considered a spreadsheet.
No, but what he does is he gets everybody's fantasy points and their typical snap shares, and
that's
then
amazing.
He eliminates games where they play 50% or less of their typical snap shares, whatever, and he re-ranks.
How did you not think of this first?
Because I don't know how to do any of that. So anyway, Mike Williams was tied with Jerry Jeudy, both of those guys will get really Azer statted. 15.2 PPR points per game if you adjust it and take away the partial games that they played. And that's really good. That's just below Jalen Waddle, better than Devontae Smith, slightly better than Devontae Smith. That's what Jerry Jeudy and Mike Williams did last year. The year before that, Mike Williams was, I think, a top 15 wide receiver as well. He was 17th per game in 2021, 14th overall. So that's 2 years in a row, if you Azer stat it, where you've gotten a top 18 wide receiver on a per game basis in PPR. There have obviously been circumstances. He played a lot of last season without Keenan Allen. So now he's got Quentin Johnston too. But those are good kind of raw numbers. Top 18 2 years in a row if you want to remove the games that he's left early with injury.
I prefer you look at just the raw number of it over that, Adam, because if you're doing like top 18, that's not factoring that other people could have been Azer statted. But
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, everyone in the pool has been vetted for Azer stats.
That's what our guy Andrew did.
Okay, got you.
Everyone gets Azer statted. He was wide receiver 7.
Okay, I like it.
So it's only the games he played. How many snaps?
What Andrew did, I believe, was he removed any game that a player played less than 50% of his typical snap share. Okay. So these guys, most of these wide receivers are playing, more than 80% of the snaps. So probably have to play less than 45% of the snaps, and that game doesn't count. And it does jive with a lot of the stuff that I've done too, like Jerry Jeudy being at 15.2 PPR points per game. That's the same as Mike Williams. But anyway, let's move on. We get bogged down in that a little bit too much, and thanks to Andrew for helping me out on that. Arizona head coach Jonathan Gannon says he is 100% comfortable with James Conner being a bell cow.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't have a choice.
Let's talk about another running back who might be a bell cow. Here's what Minnesota's offensive coordinator, Wes Phillips, said about the run game. I look at it more as the average over time. Absolutely, Dalvin Cook is a big-time playmaker, so maybe that gets filled in other areas at times. But as far as the run game, consistently producing yards and keeping us ahead of the chains, where you've got more of your call sheet available, I think is really important. And what they went on to say in the article, I think Kevin O'Connell as well, is that Dalvin Cook, yes, he was a big play generator, but they had a lot of negative and 0-yard runs last year. And the Vikings want to be more consistent. They want to just, stay ahead of the chains. You may not get the splash plays from Madison, but this article was also saying Madison can be a 3-down back. So James Conner or Alexander Madison?
I remain very, very skeptical of what Minnesota is trying to tell us, because they were one of the few teams on my list who ran a very, very lack of diversity in their run game. It was almost all zone. They had 0 plays on film that I saw where they pulled a guard or pulled anyone on that offense to run power and gap. Dalvin Cook didn't like it. He didn't run well behind it. It was the worst I've seen Dalvin Cook. It was not the system for him. Maybe it will be for Madison. To me, I think a run game that has no diversity and is just running the same thing over and over is going to lose in the long run.
But I thought you liked Madison.
I like Madison for fantasy. I don't, and I think he's going to be used in the passing game. I don't like a run game, a run blocking scheme that's running the same thing over and over, unless it's even Shanahan doesn't run the same thing over and over.
He uses a bunch of different stuff. They will too. I don't think it's going to be 100%.
Yeah, year 2, hopefully they will expand that run game. But it felt like in year 1 they were just like, this is the run game. We don't really care. We're going to throw the ball 65% of the time anyway.
All right, and so Conner or Madison?
Madison for sure for me. Not even a question.
I have them back to back, both as round 4 picks. Madison over Conner.
I like Madison. This guy, like, he's on a really good offense. The Conner thing for me, he's underrated, but that offense scares me a little bit with McCoy once we get to the regular season.
James Conner was number 9 per game last year.
I know.
He had the 3rd worst record in football, and he had great numbers with.
Can we Azer stat his McCoy days?
He had great numbers with Colt McCoy. The last 7 weeks of the season, I think that was mostly without. I mean, it was definitely mostly. I don't know if it was all without Kyler. He was the number 5 running back per game. He was on pace for 350-ish touches, 360 touches. He was playing nearly every snap. He scored 18 or more PPR fantasy points in 5 of his last 7 games. He did score a lot of touchdowns, and Kyler only played in 1 of those. All right, let's go to just a few more news items here. Kansas City, this edition of As the Kansas City Wide Receivers Turn, Rashee Rice has gotten the most first-team reps of all wide receivers so far, according to The Athletic. And 2 Bills notes here, Dave. Gabe Davis said that he lost.
We can't pass over the Chiefs without the Justin Ross stuff, too.
Oh, we talked about it yesterday.
Oh, you got it yesterday. Okay, I missed that.
Gabe Davis said he lost the step after hurting his ankle in week 2 last year. I think it bolsters the sleeper call that we've been giving on him all year. And what about Ken Dorsey, their offensive coordinator, really speaking highly of James Cook and saying that he's an every down back? What do you make of that?
I like it. I think the Bills are leaning into Cook being their primary running back this year, and then they look at Harris and Latavius Murray as supplemental guys. The thing you got to worry about with Cook is touchdowns. How many scores is he going to get? Because I don't see him getting short yardage goal line, and I would have a hard time expecting him to have even more than like 3 or 4 of those types of touchdowns, just because Josh Allen's there. And he's going to take away. So he's got too much competition in that area of the field. But as far as playing time and touches go, would you be surprised if he had less than 13 touches per game, week in and week out? That could be 9 carries and 4 catches. Some games he'll have more. I'm telling. I get the sense that Buffalo wants to diversify their offense. He's one way they can do that, and I fully expect him to be on the field more than anybody else there.
And they did use pretty significant draft capital on him a couple years ago in 2 drafts.
Second round pick, right?
Yep. And that's significant for them, especially. They hadn't been using, they'd been using like 3s and 4s at that position. Also, when they did it, remember they were talking about how they think he can be an extension of the run game via the pass game. And that's not something they've really tapped into as much during the Josh Allen era. So maybe that just needs to come in year 2.
All right. How about Rachaad White, James Cook, Cam Akers? Rank them.
It would be Cook, Akers, White for me.
I think I've got Cook at the bottom of that list for right now. White at the top.